This is Taipei Stadium in Chiang Mai. That's Dang climbing up to lift the bottom rope for me. And I'm the last fight of the night, so there's this weird like pause with no music or introduction as I'm coming in because the fight before me ended in a knockout, and people were a little bit busy. This is usually my walkout music, final countdown. I did not choose that, but that's what they play for me all the time. So it's kind of become a thing. Pidang was my trainer at Lana Muay Thai, and he corners for me now when I come up and fight. And I'm wearing this black armband and black shorts because the morning of this fight, Andy Thompson, who is a mentor to me and countless other people, he was a founder at Lana Muay Thai. He died the same morning as this fight, so I was wearing this armband to honor Andy in this fight. It was a big one for me. I'm fighting Thanonchanok, who is a world champion, one of the most decorated female Thai fighters that I'm aware of. She's been WPMF champion for many, many years. And she carries the Gyosamrit name because she's one of their fighters, but she's from Lampang, which is up here in Chiang Mai. And she's kind of like a semi-local hero, like one of the world champions from up north, so they're very proud of her. She's very good. She's been fighting forever. She's very experienced. She's very smart. And the finesse she has in fighting is just unreal. She's very difficult to beat because she can win rounds in like fighting for only 10 seconds. And she's bigger than me. She's about 6 kilos bigger, which is like 15 pounds. 2 weight classes. It's a lot to deal with size-wise when someone is also really, really good and has the style that she has. I kind of geek out when I watch her because she, basically if you take a photo of her at any moment in a fight, she looks like a poster. She's just unreal slick. That's her dad at the bottom of the screen right there, moving into the blue corner. And this is probably, I'm gonna have to check, but this is like my 6th or 7th time fighting her. The first time I fought her was early in my years fighting in Thailand, and they drove me out to Lampang, her hometown, and I remember sitting on the mat in the grass. I didn't know who she was, I didn't really know who I was fighting, and all these gamblers were coming up and asking who I was fighting, and when Dang, who was with me, was like, she's fighting Thanonchanok, they all shook their heads no and were like, oh no, that's no good, Thanonchanok's bigger and she's champion. And I was like, who am I fighting? I actually should go back and look at that fight. It wasn't crazy, but I was not ready to fight her at that point. And then we didn't fight for many years after that, and then we had kind of like a few every few months, and then every 6 months. I think the last time I fought her from this fight was about 5 or 6 months prior. I've only beaten her once in those 6 or 7 times, which was a huge, monumental victory for me. And then we fought a few times after that, and she kept beating me. The time before this that we fought, she just won spectacularly in the way that she does, of just like completely frustrating everything that I'm doing. And I had kind of a breakdown after that fight, which is very unusual for me. I cannot remember the last time, if ever, before I had cried after a fight by feeling so frustrated by like that I hadn't made progress. But it was a very hard loss for me, that last one. So hearing that I was going to be fighting her on my way up to Chiang Mai for this fight, I was kind of in the middle of the road of like excited because I actually really love fighting her. She always makes me better. But also like the last time you met someone you had a breakdown is not really like, I'm excited to share the ring with them again. So I was kind of in the middle about fighting her. But I realized going into this fight that the time that I had beaten her, I had a like do not give a fuck attitude. And so I was trying to come into this fight with that level of, like, nobody expects me to win. I kind of have no business winning. And so not a lot of pressure, just do my best. And this is my first fight really fighting her southpaw. The time before, I was trying to fight southpaw, but I would get kind of like scared into orthodox, which I don't really do anymore now. I'm much more comfortable in southpaw. But Karahat, who's the one who turned me to left-handed, messaged me before this fight and said, "Fighter orthodox," which I did not do. But I had remembered from the time that I beat her that I had done really well teeping her. One of the reasons she's able to look so good all the time is that she dictates the distance, and she sets up for everything. So if you can keep her from setting up, which teeps are really good for, you can kind of make her restart all the time. She's going to be fighting in Japan in December for a world title. So this is kind of a like tune-up fight for her, like starting to get into the mode of like getting ready to fight her world champion fight. So the English announcer is talking about how I'm coming at her southpaw. You can see she's trying to interrupt my entrance with her teep as well. She's so relaxed all the time. I'm actually not really scoring with anything. I'm just trying to stay close to her. And she has these beautiful little bursts that she does where she can like make me go straight back and then land a really nice kick at the end. I kind of expected her to come after me early in this fight, which she's done a few times like that. But she didn't do it as much. And I kind of look afraid because I'm smaller, but the way that I can keep coming forward after that is something that I wasn't able to do previously. So early in fights, stuff like this, where like I'm starting to clinch her and she's just kind of snuffing my head sideways, you can do that in rounds 1 and 2, like not actually knee in the clinch and just kind of stagnate it. But because I'm scoring, it totally changed what that first stagnation looked like. She's trying to just posture up because in these early rounds the scoring doesn't matter that much, but that ended well for me. So even though this round won't necessarily matter in the long run, it starts to tell the story for the rest of the fight, and that was a good way to kind of take the lead as the person dictating this story. I don't know who this guy is who's closest to the camera. I've never seen him before. The guy in the jeans who's helping outside the ropes, he's helped me once before. I think he's a friend of Dang's from another gym. I think he's got a Chiang Mai gym shirt on. But this is kind of the thing about how I fight, is that I might know my corner or I might not. It doesn't really matter. You listen to the advice that makes sense, that you think that you can do, and you trust yourself in the other things. Like, you're doing the fight yourself, so what your corner says to you or how much they know you only matters as much as you know yourself. I think I was laughing because I missed on some kicks and Dang was telling me to step, which is like advice that I've been told for 6 years. It's nice. This ref saw I had a lot of Vaseline on my face and he just dabbed the water off instead of wiping off all my Vaseline, which is good. So I'm trying to kick for some reason. But I think that I was like lost between my idea of using the forward check and trying to score. Look at how nice and fast her kicks are though. She also is really good at when I'm trying to like stand in and push on her. She's so good at just like posturing and pushing someone off of her. Yet another reason why she looks incredible every second of a fight. But if you stand close to your opponent, they don't breathe. So I'm just taking like centimeters, which takes her breath. Kevin's screaming at me to stay closer because I'm kind of popping out when she pushes me like that. That's fine as long as I like close that distance right back up. It's like if you dig a hole in the sand and the wave keeps like crashing into it. Anytime she pushes me off, just fill that space again. She's already throwing elbows at me because that's how to beat me, is to win by a doctor stoppage. So it's only round 2, but Kevin is screaming with desperation for me to stay close because even though round 2 points-wise doesn't really matter, I'm not a points fighter. So I need to make my mention, as Joe Hong Tong says, or I need to kind of put my pressure on someone every round. These early rounds are important for non-scoring fighters like me. When I say non-scoring, I still win on points if I win on points, but it's the overall story of the fight. She was kind of snuffing my clinch there a little bit, so now I have to make up for that, how that exchange was broken. Here I've got control of her arms, though. So she's doing really well spreading her legs wide so that she can balance. But when she does that, she actually, while she stabilizes herself from a central position, she destabilizes herself if I decide to turn a little bit, which is something I've been working on a lot with Karahat and with my clinching at my gym, trying to move more instead of just lock. So one of the reasons this fight is really good for me is that to give me an opponent who I have like baggage with, who's world champion, who's very experienced, who's bigger, like all of these things that make this a sincere challenge, to then have to use things that I've been working on in the meantime. This is kind of like a, I don't know, it's like when you stick the toothpick in the muffin to see if it's done. When you pull it back out, you see if it's still gummy or not, is seeing whether these things I've been working on can appear under the pressure of this kind of opponent. So Kevin's being encouraging, which is really good. What you pay attention to, like what things you choose to hear and what things that you totally tune out in the corner, change over time. They also change with how calm you are in a fight. They change with how much pressure you have from your opponent, how scared you are, if you cut. All of those things change how your ears work in the corner, which is pretty incredible. Dang was being really great. He was giving me very simple pointers. He kept telling me to keep my hands up. Everyone knew she was going to try to elbow me because that's how you fight Sylvie. So now we're in scoring rounds. This is when you might see Thanonchanok start to turn it on. But again, she really only likes to fight as little as possible in each round, which is smart. If you can win a round in 10 seconds, style mostly, and then win. Kevin told me I got kicked in the head a bunch of times in this fight, and I'm like, no, I blocked them, but now watching them, I'm like, I did not block this. But they're not landing hard. So I'm cutting her off a little bit better. She's using that bouncing knee, but my forward check is snuffing the kick that she's trying to set up with it, which is interesting. So she actually ends up just standing, but not scoring. And then she's got a little bit of a lock here in this clinch, but we're off the ropes, which is my advantage. So this is a moment when this round can change. Right now it's pretty even, but she's staying away from me and she's kind of snuffed the clinch a few times. That push-off she did right there is really nice. So that knee landed that she just bounced off the ropes with. So basically I have to start changing the current from the way that it's going in this round, especially because it's the first scoring round. So if she wants to only fight for 20 seconds by intimidating me and then running away the whole time, I have to catch her. Like the story is Sylvie going to catch her? That was a good score. So now the current is just starting to change.
Don't stop.
It's what it looks like when the ref breaks. The ref is going to break you, so it's who has the dominant position at that moment, like who's being saved. That left hook was landing on her a little bit. She's trying to bash me off of her, but she's not really able to use her size as much in the clinch, I think, as she has previously. These are good scores, and I'm kind of working past her hands a little bit. It's not a great position for me, but I can score out of it. And that standover is a good moment for me. Oh, that's what Long Swan yells at me about, is that, like, just running in and grabbing. He wants me to score on my way in. But these are big scores, and the ref is popping us off the rope a little bit. And she's not guiding us back into it as much as other opponents tend to. So I was able to finish that round in the lead. It doesn't mean she can't turn it around. It was a very close round, but I had the dominant finish, which means coming into the next one, that's the flavor that we're coming into the next round with.
Sweepy, you can't be on the porch. You gotta go all the way.
So Kevin's telling me to stop being on the porch, which means that I come within kicking distance and then wait. I need kneeing distance, which is a few inches closer. This guy's climbing up. He's a gambler. I think he also works somewhere in the stadium, like maybe at one of the shops. But he's coming in and telling me to keep clinching her. A couple of fights before this, I lost a fight against a girl that I definitely should have won because I kind of made terrible decisions in round 5. And this guy came up to me afterwards and was like, you need to trust your own judgment, not listen to people who are telling you to take the last round off. So he's coming up, giving me advice, having told me before, follow your own advice. Which is funny. But he's giving me good advice. Telling me to clinch someone is a good idea. So I think I'm already cut at this point. She elbowed me behind the ear, and I had a bunch of blood coming down the side of my head. But nobody knew where it was coming from because it's behind my ear. It's in my hair. And it was just from an elbow on the far end of the ring when I kind of turned my head too far. And it just landed nice and cut me open there. So she's actually had a lot of success against me with low kicks before, where I was, I totally went through them and she gave up on them, but she did a lot of damage and I started to kind of like turn on them. So she was showing effect. I'm not showing effect on those few that she just threw, and so she's given up on them already. It's a huge thing about showing an opponent whether they are having effect with their strikes or not, is you can get someone to give up on something that actually is mentally affecting you. So here, I have a good lock on her. It's not even a lock on her neck, it's a body lock, but it's high enough that the ref is not going to break it, and I'm able to turn her. So I went over her arm, holding my leg, and I got her in the face on that one, and I'm twisting back and forth. So even though we're locking each other, I'm the one dictating all of these movements, and I keep scoring, and she's getting more and more still as we go. This is a huge moment for me, especially having finished hard in that last round, and now having a very long, kind of unanswered, dominant exchange in the clinch. When I went up to her neck is when I kind of lost grip, but I was able to pop her off as she was trying to knee right there, which is something Yod Kun Pan taught me. Now Kevin's screaming at me to get closer because I had this dominant moment, so now she stays away from me in this, like, I can stay away from you. It changes what that dominant moment feels like for the rest of the round. So I need to stay on her, keep her from breathing, keep her from recovering. Basically, she got tired in that last clinch exchange, so keep her tired when I catch her. These are big points that I'm scoring even though they're coming to the side. So here I'm kind of scooping her leg, which is something Karahat taught me, to make her move. And then getting these straight knees by hopping back first. But I've got her arm caught. So that was a big 4th round for me. So I have round 3 and round 4. That's really good. That means I basically just need to not lose in round 5. But again, how you come into the round based on the flavor of the last round is really important. I've messed up by coming into the 5th round too low or too slow because I'm in the lead. You can't just sit on the lead from the beginning of the round. You have to like push on it a little bit. So Kevin's very excited. He wants me to come into round 5 securing that dominance rather than riding that dominance.
Hands up all the way.
So I'm bleeding from the side of my head. Nobody knows what's going on in terms of where that is. So they're trying to like wash the blood off of me, but they actually don't know where to stop the bleeding because they don't know where it is. It didn't bleed a lot. But you can see Dang is making a huge point about keeping my hands up, and then he's saying punch before grabbing. So he's like, stay close, keep your hands up, and then strike before grabbing, which allows the grab to look more in control rather than like kind of powering through someone's counters and then grabbing. You are scoring on your way in, but it's also an aesthetic thing. It's a way to really look as dominant as you truly are. It's so interesting how you can be doing something really good, but it doesn't look great from the outside. Fights are judged from outside the ropes, so what it looks like outside the ropes matters. Galloping, staying on her. This is good. My guard is up. I blocked that kick, and it actually shuts down a lot of her kicks. I think it hurt, that block. So I'm chasing her a little bit, but I'm in the lead, so I actually would have to lose this fight, even though I'm following her. But she keeps throwing, she's launching this kick at me and this knee at me off of the ropes, and I'm trying to like step off of it and hook her. So I end up hooking her quite a few times, but I have to block. There we go. Stay on. That's a nice push. So I blocked that knee in a way that Diesel Noi has taught me, which is to knee into the thigh as they're kneeing. And then I got way out of the way of that knee that she launched at me and landed a hook. So now, even though she was like, come get me, now it looks like she's running away from me. Totally just changing the way the movement feels. So that was blocked. So now I just have to stay back enough that I'm not chasing her. And Kevin is yelling like fucking hell for me to back up so that I'm basically like, now come get me. I don't want to move in because it looks like I'm trying to score again, which I don't need to do. But I have a hard time going backwards because I don't look good when I'm doing it. Okay, so here, backing up slowly with my guard up, not following her, making her come forward. Little bit like that. And then just blocking. And like, I don't care. You have to score and I don't. So now it looks like she's trying to get me and she can't. That is a very secure, not close, definitely win-win. Which is a huge deal against Thanonchanok. The other time I won, I got to dance off in round 5, which was fucking incredible. But to know that you won against someone who you have no business beating feels really good. And it's all because of knowing the inches and like incremental steps that lead to that win. Like it's not a blowout. It's actually a pretty close fight, but it becomes a blowout by the kind of aesthetics of certain storylines in the fight. It's a big deal. Fucking 15 pounds bigger than me. I weigh 100 pounds. That's a lot when you're that size. It's significant. That's one of the cool things of these kind of walking through the crowd in order to go take your gloves off is that people want photos with you. You kind of get to be like a superstar in the space of these people who... A lot of these people know me, like they've come and watched me many times, like the Thais who are gamblers. They've seen me fight a gazillion times. And then there are people who are there only one night or two night, like tourists who are excited by seeing a Westerner fight in Thailand and do well. But this is Taipei. We're walking past where the live music comes from, and then I don't know that this is still a functioning gym at all anymore. I think they moved it, but this is the warm-up area, and sometimes you'll see kids playing on the bags. It's a huge, huge fight for me. It was really good.